Hello and welcome back to the Astrology Chisme Hotline. I really want to take advantage of the video's really long title because it speaks to my brand's ethos that is based in chismosa culture. From what we now know as the Philippines to Mexico, chismosa culture and gossip were the backbone of society. But cops, that was not a thing. This Mars and Gemini transit since October 15th has really woken up my inner chismosa warrior. Way back in October, I predicted that a lot of copycats would get exposed because Mars entering in Gemini, it just made sense. The planet Mars in Gemini has the capacity to remind everyone of the power of our words. On one hand, it's that words cut deep. They leave scars, physical, emotional, mental, and can really do violence. The other is that actual physical violence thrives on people's silence and not speaking up. For example, white supremacy operates best without anyone questioning, let alone naming it. I'm going to dive deep into Mars, which has a lot of representations. Desire, the color red, courage, violent anger, joy. All of these things come from the heart. That is why it represents blood. Also, the fact that it's red. Mars, like people's hearts, is authenticity no matter what. The sad truth is that authenticity scares people. You can feel like an outsider for standing in your truth and fighting for it. While I've been planning this video since October, this Hailey, Selena situation really lit a proverbial fire under my ass because I think it depicts the Mars in Gemini myth so well. I have my Mars in Capricorn, exalted. Mars and we cut through fakeness with truth. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Myths are what the ancient astronomers assigned to constellations made out of their own imagination. What they saw in the sky reflected what they saw in their natural environment. They paired these myths with their observations in agriculture and sailing to create what we now know as astrology. This is why some stars, even though they're not as bright, have so much power and like assign whoever has some sort of connection to them like greatness because of the lore that's attached to them. In this modern environment, this myth of celebrity is what's reflected to us from our screens to our billboards, often unwillingly. And then if we're interested, we'll give them that attention and feed their lore. When I first saw this Hailey Selena tea, I thought it was just me because I tend to get a lot of like girly drama shit. I tend to support Latinas, but no, like some started saying that it was the best gossip they've ever heard, and elders, coworkers, family, even the boys. I'm hesitant to call it a distraction or to label it as just like irrelevant for two reasons. One, I'm in the hot topics.
I don't respect people's privacy. That's why I do the hot topics.
Okay, my brand is Chisme. Two, I think this signals what many people have been forecasting about Pluto and Aquarius, which is coming this month, which will shift the entire myth of celebrity and has really shown us that authenticity will be more valued in this like fame economy. It is just not easy to be real. It triggers people and it creates really scary situations. And that's why, in honor of Mars and Gemini, I will be quickly summing up my astrological observations on the Hailey Selena scenario. I'll then be using a case study from a Latina who also got pretty much stalked to that point or copycatted. And then I'm going to be calling in my first hotline into another Latina who successfully sued her copycat. She won, by the way. Did I say that? She won. I will be diving into two astrology elements, the planet Mars, and the sign of Gemini. Selena has Gemini in the 11th house of public eye, fame, clout, the internet, and also just friendships, which I think that is really interesting because a lot of people think that she has fake friends. I don't know if Bieber's chart is correct because obviously she doesn't have a verified like Selena. From what I do have, Hailey's Gemini house is the 9th house, the house of studying. And I think it's funny because she studies the fuck out of Selena Gomez. I'm gonna run this clip now, but before I play it, I want to repeat something I said earlier in this video. Mars, like people's hearts, is authenticity no matter what. Authenticity scares people. Play it.
What do you wish more people knew about you?
My heart.
You make me cry.
Oh, no. Somebody asked me a while ago, what's the one thing you wish people knew about you? And I said I wanted it to be my heart.
I wish people just knew my heart.
Selena is a Leo rising. Her star is literally the sun. In astrology language, she's ruled by the sun, because Leo is ruled by the sun, which makes her someone ruled by the heart, because the sun in medical astrology is the heart. Now that we have that education part over with, Hailey taking that quote about knowing her heart, I think she's even aware of her own body language, giving it that away, is a key example of her trying to mimic Selena's authenticity and frankly her soul. Like, Gemini is an air sign, so diction and speech is a really obvious like connection. But the twins is where I think it gets kind of a bad rep for being fake, two-faced, literally, even copying, because Gemini is a trickster. It has its dualities that extend beyond just like good or bad. Gemini can give someone a really good wit. I think Mars in Gemini speaks to mind games. First of all, Mars also has a connection to games. It's one of the things in astrology that has like games and competitions and stuff like that. And then Gemini speaks to the mind and the intellect. Hailey antagonizing and trying to push Selena's buttons, it's all just that kind of need to hold on to resentment in your heart. We know your heart and it has resentment. Here's where I think we can take actual wisdom, and this is going to be the beginning of what I'm starting to learn as tactics in intellectual warfare. Any kind of like copying, violation, stealing someone's personality, soul, looks, everything. Keeping receipts. Obviously, the receipts are endless. As far as like Hailey copying Selena, that I don't really even have to do anything. I can just sit back and let that speak for itself. And I think that that's what Selena's doing too. As an astrologer, we are taught and wired to look for patterns. Hailey Bieber has a notorious track record of copyright violations. She's currently facing a legal battle with the original Rode brand that she just took because she has more resources, can afford to probably win. That's so fucked up for small designers. She's supposed to be a woman supporting woman. You couldn't come up with some other name. I come from the streets, man. Like, if you had a graffiti name that you really wanted and you just found out that someone else has already like taken it, you just look and think for another name. But anyways, what I find really violating is the tattoos, because there's 3 tattoos that are being sported that have some connection to Selena. Now, Mars actually represents the process of getting tattoos. All over the world, indigenous people started tattoos since like forever, and often represented some achievement, some accomplishment, to be like discovering who you are. That is a really difficult process, as we know back then too. Like, it's not an easy task, but these rites of passage were designed for you to have some sort of like new maturity. And that's the thing that Hailey not only lacks, but also any sort of unique voice. And I'm not saying everyone has to have like tattoos that mean anything. I have like a silly little cartoon dog made of clouds on my arm. At least I think now in society, it has to be like original, or if not, like meaningful. But the fact that 3 of her tattoos are directly related to Selena, 2 of them identical, the G and like the Arabic word on the hip, feels like a hex onto yourself. Back then it was a ritual, and I think to this day it is still a ritual, and I know that tattoo enthusiasts would love it if I called it that and would agree. So for you to have those kinds of intentions, it's scary. You could be literally a walking hex. A walking hex. The ring finger one is not directly identical. Selena doesn't have a tattoo on her left ring finger. She did have a promise ring that looks just like that. Mars likes pain. Mars likes to cut things. Tattoos are just cuts. And obviously, I've said Mars rules the blood. Blood has been used in magic forever, and especially for really deep, like, karmic soul binding shit. The tattoos represent the boundaries that you had to cross. The skin is a boundary between us and the outside world. I actually made a video about how skincare is connected to astrology and how Saturn specifically as a planet rules the skin in medical astrology. And so for you to get a tattoo, like a spite tattoo, you're literally breaking your own boundaries, you're breaking her boundaries. And I hope that the pain from the tattoo was worth it, because it's clear that you and your husband don't believe in removing tattoos. I know I said I wasn't going to jump into her astrology. I literally just found out, looking back at the chart, that she has Mars in Gemini. This makes so much sense. Like, thank God. Selena's Mars is actually in Taurus. So the 2 Mars, they don't really see each other. When there are planets that are in signs directly after the other, it can cause effect where, because they're like just pretty much in their peripheral, it's like blurry. You don't really know what that other person's up to, and I think that can explain a lot of how they were like passing Justin Bieber back and forth between them pretty much. And like Selena's Mars is in Taurus, right? So is Hailey Bieber's node. Her north node is in Taurus. So her soul literally came here to move towards and like create that wealth that she's been literally seeking all her life, and create that life of like beauty and harmony and stability. With a south node though in Scorpio, I know that people calling her fake hurts her, because Scorpio's all about authenticity and like the messiness of that. I think there's been some sort of imbalance, way too much on the Taurus side. Selena makes this cooking show in her house with Gordon Ramsay and all these celebrities. Selena's Mars is in Taurus, and Taurus is also about cooking. Hailey Bieber goes and does the same thing. She's literally like mimicking her like a parrot, like okie dokie. Like, I think that this all speaks to the Gemini archetype. You can just be absorbing information at such a fast rate that you have nothing else to do but to emulate it. And I've seen it personally. Gemini 1st house, Gemini 7th house, and Mars in Gemini. Hailey Baldwin. I'm going to conclude astrological observations that have to do with Venus and Jupiter conjunction, which are the 2 benefic positive planets in astrology, took place on March 2nd. In the height of this was not positive for Hailey Bieber, despite her having both her Venus and her Jupiter in Aries. People who believe in the binary could argue that because Aries is a Mars-ruled sign, that explains all the conflict. But at the end of the day, it was her Venus return, it was her Jupiter return. These planets don't really care about us. They're just passing, and they're markers of patterns and just time and where we are. And really, we are the ones responsible for making our life good. And so for them to be positive, you have to be positive. And Hailey is not a positive person. I think that this was a sum of her karma that had to do with her partner. It's in her 7th house. Her partner has been complacent, and that's something that Venus could also stand for. Her 7th house is in Aries, and for that to work out, you have to be an individual. Aries is all about individuation, so that you can have a healthy relationship to your ego, like your shadow self. Really integrate that so you can be whole again. That would be my advice to her, but I'm not with that. I'm not with racist. She's literally the antithesis of what I seek for in a client. If you're the opposite, hit me up. Now stay tuned for this next story, which has a valuable and similar story having a copycat as an artist. While this kawaii lifestyle artist is not as big as Selena, this story goes just as far back and has just the same amount of wild and historical receipts for us to look at. Let's take a look. If you enjoyed this video, hit a like and a subscribe. If you are interested in booking a reading, I do have my bookings open. I have attended multiple astrology conferences where I've even gotten to present, and I will be putting my presentations onto Patreon exclusively, so definitely sign up. I'm having an early bird right now, only $311, and that is the Crescent Moon Hotline. Get on the hotline, okay? Mars and Gemini, I think if it was like a film, I would say it would be like this, like intellectual, like lawsuit, some heated intellectual debate. I could also see it as The Shining, as creepy as it is, the twins in The Shining, and like seeing like your doppelganger, seeing like that's me but that's not me. In this part, we're going to be discussing how Susana de Leon's work, Timoi stands for Trapped in My Own Imagination, has had their work stolen from someone that they mentored. They are in the process of trying to make a documentary about it. It's really like a lot of information. Just like Hailey and Selena, I think someone should make a documentary about it. I think worse documentaries have absolutely been made and have included TikTok videos. I'm looking at you, Hulu, for making that Astro World TikTok documentary. I do have to put a trigger warning. Timoi has been in galleries and has had their work respected both on the streets and by art collectors. However, they have had to take a step back from art for a really long time because of a bang grape that disabled them. If you resonate with their story after watching this, I will be putting their page as well as the specific handbags that they're selling, and these will all fund directly the lawsuit case against their copycat. So let's get into it. I will be reacting to these videos.
Part 2. You're really gonna tell me that this face is the original creator of those dolls? I mean, look at this.
I'm really sorry for starting off with the plastic surgery thing, but she absolutely is trying to look like her. And this next video that I'm going to play definitely proves it. I know I chose a weird video, but you know, I did give you guys context.
Look at her cheeks, look at her chin. Okay? Come on. Come on. Seriously, look at this. Okay, that's her art. That's her art. That's my art. But that is a total bootleg.
Immediately, we're getting kind of closer to the story. Now we're seeing both of them with their natural faces and these characters. So this person is called Sand Wonder. I have, unfortunately, had to see those all around my neighborhood. If you have grown up in any kind of area with a lot of like Latin people, you'll know what I'm talking about. I feel like those are the areas she frequents a lot. Honestly, didn't really think that much of them until someone pointed out to me that like the eyes are kind of creepy. And it's interesting because the eyes are definitely one of the aspects that she steals from Timoi. There's the hair, the facial structure, I think, as well, with like kind of the angle. I think that Timoi has more of a range, honestly, because as you might see as we go on and on, Sand Wonder only uses this specific angle of the face, whereas Timoi is using like a more like layered face, like a complex face.
Tootsie in 2012, and this one was created around 2018. and it's supposed to be her character that she does all the time, but this does not match what the original character was supposed to be. Okay, I mean, look at her big ass mouth. Like, you cannot compare. Okay, like, it just doesn't go. Let's look at this again. Now that is her essence.
Her essence.
Here's another example of total derivative from this doll. This doll was created in 2013, and it's just a quick throw up.
Timoi is literally the blueprint. The blue eyes. Timoi has blue eyeshadow on, wearing these lashes. This is their life. Like, this is who they are. This is a lifestyle.
And in different places, I did little throw ups like this of the faces. So you're not going to tell me that this is not a derivative of this, because it is. And this one, I created her in 2011, okay? And this other one, she created around 2016. So no, like, you guys need to stop telling me that I'm obsessed, okay? You know what? I am obsessed with telling the truth, okay? Because I cannot live my life with people constantly bringing her up to me and accusing me of me being a copycat or of me copying her in any way. No, like, yeah, she came up, you know why? Because I had to take time away. Okay, can you imagine being...
This is a trigger warning.
...gang raped and tortured, okay, to the point that you're left disabled? Like, come on. No, of course I had to go low key. Of course I had to step down from the limelight. And she took advantage during those years that I wasn't able to do anything. Okay, and instead she stayed bashing, you know, people that had mental illness. Why? Because she knew I that's what was going on with me.
We'll be learning more about Sand Oneer. And for those of you who are confused about like that type of name with any kind of like graffiti, good for you. Oneer is something that people put after their name sometimes to be like, I'm the insert name. So in her case, it would be Sand.
Has definitely been ripping me off. I am not making this up. It is obvious. And one of the things that has been coming up a lot in the comments is you guys saying that I'm obsessed. No, honey, I am not obsessed. I've been doing my research, okay? I left this woman alone in 2014 hoping that she would develop her own style. But instead, I can tell she created more derivatives during the years of 2014, 2018, 2019, derivatives of my characters. So she never you know, stopped looking at me. She never kept her eyes off of me and my artwork. She continued to copy. I did not keep up with her whatsoever.
Between, you know, 2014, 2019, Timoi was recovering from this traumatic experience.
And it wasn't until I finally got tired of people always asking me about her and trying to insinuate that I was copying her, and it got tiring. I mean, come on, imagine you're just trying to live your life and somebody keeps, you know, nagging you about somebody you know is ripping off your art. So then in 2020, I did my research and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I like noticed that only the art that she markets on her products are the dolls that are derivatives of my dolls. How come she doesn't put her street art on the merchandise? Because it's fucking ugly, okay? I'm not claiming that her street art is like mine. I'm not. But the dolls she's putting on the merchandise, those are derivatives, straight up derivatives out of my art.
There's one thing to be inspired, but when that is your entire profit and your entire salary is based off of someone else's work who did pave the way for you, that's a completely different story. And we're about to get into that, of how they met and how they kind of changed their life, both of their lives, not for the best.
Okay. So since you would like to know, I will tell you. I met her in 2008 at this garage shop. It's a skate shop called The Garage. And she came in and I was painting there at the shop. I would often come and paint there. And she introduced herself, and she was, you know, really happy talking about her art. And being that I was used to mentoring young people, it came natural to me to be really happy for her and supportive towards her. And so I gave her my business card. I told her to email me when she was ready, and that I would invite her to shows and introduce her to people so she can, you know, showcase her art. She didn't message me until like March of 2009. And she emailed me and she said she wanted me to hook her up with any connections and stuff like that. So I did. I emailed her back and told her, you know, come over to my studio. And so she came over, we would draw together. People were really mean to her because her art wasn't like really, it was kind of ugly, but I didn't care that it was ugly because people draw all kinds of different art. And but she was really bitter because people would really hate on her, like, and so I would be defending her. I would even go on blogs and defend her when there was negative comments about her. And so I think that she took me for a week because I would do that for her, which was really stupid because she missed out on a lot. She could be way bigger now if only she wouldn't have stabbed me in the back like she did.
That's the thing too, is like in creative industries, kindness really does go a long way. Being a dick, it's like you have the fucking cheese touch.
So anyways, I even invited her to a business class where she learned how to start her brand. I taught her how to copyright her stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I did for her.
That's so ironic. The fact that they took advantage. Like, you're literally copywriting someone else.
So she would come into my studio, and then she started, when she started to copy my art behind my back, that was like in 2010, like July of 2010, and she started to draw the eyes closed of the characters or with shades on whenever she would come around me. And it wasn't until 2011 that this photographer told me that she was copying my art. And I didn't believe it at first until I Googled her. And I Googled her and I found out, like, what the fuck? She's been biting my work. She's been copying my work behind my back. But this whole time she's been coming into my studio and being friends with me and being nice to me and pretending like nothing was happening. Meanwhile, I was busy because I was the president of the board of this nonprofit for eradicating violence against women. So I heard this a lot. So I did my research.
Okay, this is the creepy aspect. There is more to this story besides just copyright infringement. It's crossing that boundary when it comes to the body and physically deforming yourself to look more like your dolls that you stole from someone else's that were really kind of self-portraits. So you're really just trying to look more like Timoi.
She wanted it to be as skinny as I was or am, so she did that. According to her, she wants to look like her dolls because she doesn't look like her dolls. So she got cosmetic surgery.
Right.
But the funny thing is that her dolls are a derivative of my dolls, and my dolls are a derivative of me. So of course they look like me, and so what's gonna happen? She's gonna end up looking like me.
And I can see it too in this kind of like,
here is a before and after she got cosmetic surgery.
She definitely looks more like a doll, specifically an indigenous
Here is a
doll.
candid photo of the two of us when we were that young. That's her, that's me. I mean, look at this. This is the reason why people even say she looks like me. But come on, people. This is fucking creepy. She, you know, this is too much. Like, this bitch wants everything I have, everything that I am. And it's really affecting my livelihood. It really is. So
isn't this like ringing a bell? Like, I think that people start out as fans, maybe students in this case, and then they develop some sort of resentment, some sort of jealousy, and instead of helping that let them like glow up discover themselves, try to literally become this person. Again, my heart really goes out for Timoi because bitches are fucking weird.
You know, I don't deserve the hate. I don't deserve, you know, the negativity. You know, this is fucking real. She's been doing this and she doesn't want to stop doing it. I mean, this is weird. This is really weird.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, who do you think the original artist is? I mean, come on.
Obviously, Timoi in this resembles their doll. And it's not just the big eyes, y'all. It's the hair, the big lashes, the facial cheek structure, which is reflected in the surgery as well. And I think it's also the little like pursed lip. I don't know, some sort of like little heart mouth that with like a chin that's like pointy, you know, like a heart.
It doesn't make sense. She's not the original artist. Look at this. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
That is so ugly.
Now, if you look at this too, now this adds up. That's her.
It does.
And that's her essence. That's her original self. Both her face and her character's face, her doll's face. Exactly, BB. And you know what? She doesn't do her own digital art. Have you noticed how she's just always trying to trace? You know, I mean, that's a technique, but she doesn't show. I mean, it doesn't come natural to her.
It doesn't. To an artist, it would. It makes me sad that a lot of these videos are responses to hate comments. She does have a really loyal fan base, so that's just to be expected.
How am I the hater when this is her original art? Okay, she was not selling. Even on interviews, she's always talking about nobody was buying her shit and that her shit was fucking ugly before. You know, it wasn't until she started.
I just read a comment that said, I believe you because my homegirl tried calling her out. She can't stand another girl at the graph scene. A lot of female graph writers have tried to call her out on her shit. She's a fraud and fake as fuck. And that's the thing, is like, you don't have to even really be that close or in the graffiti scene to know how important it is not to bite, especially when you're stealing from other women of color. I think that that's a new low.
And don't come at me with, oh, you know, it's her the reason why shit is selling. No, I mean, she is a good salesperson, I'll give you that.
Yeah, so are timeshare scammers.
But the reason why she's selling is because she ripped off my art. My art is fucking beautiful. Okay, I've known for years how valuable my art is. Don't fucking go and do somebody dirty like that who was really good to you and showed you the ropes and introduced you to people. You don't do that, okay? That's why a lot of people compare our shit, okay? It is not fucking fair to me. So this is what she was doing before she started to copy me. So how does that make me the fucking hater? Okay, all I'm trying to do is do my art and my work and not be associated with her. But people are always associating me with her, and it's very tiring, okay?
Calling anyone who's getting copied obsessed is, I think, a projection from the hater or the copier's point of view, because they're the ones that are obsessed. I shouldn't even be associated with this person. They're associating themselves with me. I didn't ask for this. It's embarrassing. I think I've heard like multiple people, it's embarrassing to be associated with this person. I want it to stop. That is, I think, a reasonable ask.
Look at this. I mean, she totally, completely ripped me off. This character of mine is called Lisette. And the one on the bottom is called Cakes, I believe. She calls it Cakes. It's totally a ripoff of my little baby.
And it's also that same traced over, like left or right. I can't tell. But yeah, it's a left.
Justin and Selena won't stop communicating.
I know.
Like, look, I put him back to back, you know, transparent. And it's like the exact replica, except that she doesn't brown and black hair, so she uses like human-like features, but it doesn't fucking matter. The point that is important here is that she took the most important part of my dolls and used it on hers, and she's benefiting off of it. It does affect my business. She has been defaming me indirectly all this time, but I have proof. And this is just a tiny bit of everything that I've got.
I'm just gonna close out with one last video, and it's when Sandwunner is calling out someone for biting her art. Also, we get a little bit of an understanding about like the actual physical stalking.
Hi babies, I know you have questions, and also I have a lot to say. You know, people want me to shut up about it.
So appreciating like Timoi's looks. The background is amazing, but the shirt, y'all, it's so cute. Like, I'm definitely gonna be saving for mine.
She wants me to shut up about it. She's over there, you know, posting about get over it, get over the past, fuck your feelings, blah blah blah. No bitch, I'm not getting over this. You're gonna fucking pay for it, and I'm gonna take you to court for ripping me off. So this is a post that she did when somebody was bootlegging her shit. And she says, the doll is mine. When you build your own company from nothing, every step is memorable. Every doll is a step in my life. I know I stand up when I see her. Well, guess what, bitch? Me too. Me too. I know a BB doll from Timoi when I see her, okay? And you are totally ripping off my art. Now you're talking about you want to come to Riverside because you know that I'm here in Riverside. And you know what? Fuck all those people that are supporting you still after knowing the truth, okay? That is fucking lame. You know, they should be ashamed of themselves. You know, this gallery that you're going to be at in Riverside is probably not even a legit gallery because you know that galleries are not taking you up because you're a fucking bootleg, bitch. So this is when she was crying and ranting for like a whole fucking week over this until I called her out. Then she fucking shut her mouth.
So Timoi is based in Riverside, so there is that, like, again, stalking element, like having a show there, even though it's not at a real gallery. Because also, I just want to read something that says she's making millions from your idea. I'm like, Timoi said, nah, she's not there yet, and if she is, she will pay for it. Well, you know what, Timoi? If she is, then that just means she'll have enough to pay you back when you win.
When I went to Santa Ana to do murals, she went to fucking Santa Ana. Now I'm here in Riverside working on stuff. Now she fucking wants to come over here. Fuck this bitch. You know, please support me. You know, you can support me by buying my stuff. You can support me by sharing my videos, by telling people the truth. So thank you so much. Let me show you something else. No. This is from an interview she when she told this newspaper that she got bootlegged, and this is what Brisk One had to say. She worked for years developing her trademark style.
We know that that's not true because upon meeting Timoi, she had that weird self-portrait. She said that in 2010, she was already coming out with bootlegs, and by 2011, that was when it was like apparent to like everyone else. So that's not true.
And having someone bootleg it isn't right. The similarities are obvious. The way the head is tilted, the hair, the colors, etc. Dude, she's a bootleg herself. Like, how do you feel now? Then here she's talking about going to college, like street college. You know, I always talked about that because I couldn't afford art school. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go and do it myself. So she's like, you know, nah, bitch, I did my homework. I paid my dues. And you're trying to take that. No, fuck you. And the people that are supporting you.
Unfortunately, her art is everywhere, even if she isn't making millions. But really, like, those dolls are creepy, almost as creepy as everything that she's done to try and make Timoi the center of her galaxy. I really wanted to share this story not only to elevate this creator, definitely follow her on TikTok, you guys. Sometimes people will take kindness as a weakness, and as much as they try to replicate you, it's just not going to work. She's still tracing the same thing over and over. They are stuck in a loop on their own ego death, their own hex that they've placed on themselves. I'm going to be playing something that I recorded from my mentor, Iris Almaraz, so definitely watch that. Iris Almaraz is a film mama. She is a badass who I had the pleasure of meeting last year. She won her case against her copycat twice because they tried to appeal, but she won it again in Mars retrogrades in Gemini. So literally retrograde, going back and revisiting. This is me my first time calling someone on the channel. The hotline starts today. Alright, so let me call my homegirl Iris Almaraz, writer-director from East Los, for some advice because this is getting out of hand.
Hello.
Hi, Iris. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing right now. I heard through the grapevine that you have some Mars and Gemini Chisme for me.
Well, if Mars and Gemini Chisme means fuck around and find out.
Yes.
I might have a little.
This case of fuck around and find out Chisme is a lawsuit case that you recently won, right?
I won this lawsuit case twice.
Do you? Oh.
Yeah, I won the lawsuit case against a
twice.
business partner. And the first time I won was in October 2021. And then they appealed, and then I won the lawsuit case in, again, in, I think it was either November or December 2022.
Wow. I wish you could see my face right now.
Yeah, I was pretty relieved and happy and glad for it to be over.
Do you want to explain to, you're on air right now. I'm calling you on Astrology Chisme Hotline. Surprise.
Right.
And do you...
The 411.
Yes. Give us, like, what the basic, like, premise, like, why and how this even happened.
Okay, so I'm a filmmaker, and a few years back, I brought this person who had no experience in filmmaking onto something that I was building with 3 other people. And so there was a total of 5 of us, and I was the only person who was the consistent one that brought each individual on separately, okay? They didn't know each other before me meeting them directly. One of them met her around the same time, so after a while, there was some distrust that set in after I caught her in several lies. And then ultimately we had a falling out on set. In particular, the falling out was her challenging me as a director on my decisions. And even just recently, I saw a woman of color panel, and they were like, don't let people challenge you as the director. You are the director. And I feel like women of color get challenged more than anyone else, and it sucks when it comes from another woman of color. So, got the falling out, and then a month later, she secretly filed for the LLC without telling me or the other member. She told one of the other member I don't know what she said on her end with that person, that she was able to convince them that this way of going about things, which is actually illegal, but that this way of going about things, rather than having a person-to-person conversation and settle shit, that their sneaky way of going about things was a better idea. So, unfortunately, this was a breach of fiduciary duty. It's called a breach of fiduciary duties to a general partnership. We were, as an organization, as a company, that had started out, we'd already set into motion contracts that dealt with how financial revenue would be distributed. So we were what's considered a general partnership. And what she did is a breach of her fiduciary duties to it. That was what my lawsuit was.
Okay.
It was in small claims court.
Okay.
So when you go to small claims court, even though I haven't had a bigger case that I could have taken a lawyer onto and sued her for more,
right.
I sued her in small claims court, which you don't have a lawyer for. And what I sued her for was my artistic investment, because she claimed ownership over my intellectual property. She filed it, she copyrighted it, I don't know what, that's what she says, she registered it, and
right.
She also registered the LLC, so she claimed ownership of my intellectual property, which I had invested into the company we were creating. So she owed me for that artistic investment.
Got it.
That's what I sued her for in small claims court.
Okay, and then that was the first case that you won, or was that the second one?
Both cases were for the same thing. They were for my investment, my artistic value, my artistic contributions, my work that wasn't monetized, that hadn't been paid for. Everything that, if I wasn't her partner that she stole from, she would have had to have paid me thousands of dollars for me to do for her.
Got it.
So that was what I sued. And they were both times they were for the same thing. For my artistic value that I put into that company, that needed to be compensated for once she stole that company, okay? So what one of the judges said was, they asked her the second time when we went to court, the judge actually, the second time said, I don't know why you got an appeal. You shouldn't have gotten an appeal. Like, I don't see any reason that qualifies you for an appeal. And she said, well, I don't know what I was being sued for. And the judge was like, you got the evidence. The evidence. And she goes, well, I didn't know what I was being sued for. And the judge asked me, did you give her the same evidence? And I was like, yes, because you have to give both the evidence to the judge and to whoever you're suing, the defendant. You have to give them the same evidence. And so I said, yes. So the judge was like, well, how did you not know what you were being sued for? Anyway, playing dumb works cute at a bar to get drinks, but playing dumb in court isn't successful.
And that's on period. For what sounds like a lot of betrayal and hurt and loss, are handling this in a really like mature way, really like staying in your own lane and focus. Were there ever times that you wanted to go the more conflict-driven route? Because it sounds like the judge knew that, you had everything on paper. You had the receipts. But I wonder if there was ever like a moment where you were like, bitch, I'm from East Los.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm originally from El Monte.
Okay.
Is, not too far from East Los, but I've been out of East LA for over 20 years. So I like to always make sure people know I'm from East LA for the last 20 years. But where I'm from is El Monte, which is also a badass place too. So no shit on El Monte people, they can fuck up some shit.
Yes.
Actually, that's like my sister. She's the the ex-chola that was really like down to help me out. She understands the law, and she like super El Monte hood with two masters. Don't fuck with her.
Yes. So you had an ally on your side. You had that.
Yeah, with street smarts, legal smarts, education smarts. She was my, it's good to have a support system that's going to be there for you, because it's a long, hard process, and sometimes you want to just give up just because you just don't want to stay in that mental space, that emotional space of dealing with this person, of going over the evidence over and over and thinking about it. You want to get out, you want to jump off. But, a lot of people around me were like, you have to see this through. And I understand, because if I hadn't seen it through, it was going to eat me up for a hell of a lot longer than it did. So, of course, I wanted to go, fisticuffs, online, go at it back and forth. There was one time where I did throw up something online because one of my partners are LGBTQ. And she also stole from them, right, when she secretly filed for the LLC.
Okay.
And then I saw her at the LA Mayor's office for Pride, celebrating Pride as an ally. And I was like, I cannot take it, I just cannot take it. I think I threw something up like that, and then I saw another person that I'm, her and I, this person and I have known each other for a long time. We're good acquaintances. I saw that they put up a project that, at first I put like a heart for it, and then I saw that this person I sued's boyfriend, who later made claims of being a producer at the company that they stole from me. I was like,
okay.
I said, I wanted to like your project, but I had to unlike it because it's just too much. It's one thing when they're coming after me, but it's another, like, when you see the hypocrisy of like, oh, we're LGBTQ
Right.
allies.
Allies.
And then you're like, wait a minute, if I'm an ally, I'm going to put my body between you and people I care about that are in that community. And just knowing that she stole from them too, I was like, no, fuck this shit. That was the thing that really pushed me over. But again, over and over, I pulled back, and even to the end, when I did get my verdict in my favor, a lot of people in my community were like, you know, you got to put it out, you got to let people know who she is. And I was like, I'm not down with women of color tearing down other women of color. It happens. She did it to me. She told people to cancel my show, the show that she built her brand off of, the show that I lifted her up out of and helped build up her on whatever it is that she's doing now. And I was like, you know, I just don't want to do it anymore. I want all that time and effort, I want to put that into me now.
Yes.
And I've always, been helping others as a child survivor of trauma. You know, we're always like trying to help others while we're neglecting our own needs. And so I was like, this year, no, this year I'm helping me.
Coming from this place, and you touched a little bit on what you did, do you have any advice to others who may be listening, going through the same issue with intellectual ownership and just the battle to be recognized, respected, and not violated?
Yeah. There's a few things that I can really help young artists starting out with is try to communicate a lot of your business thoughts or ideas through email. Maybe through text, but mostly through email, because texts do get erased. Emails, just don't ever erase those. And you'd be surprised how many emails, how many texts, how many posts online were my evidence for my claim that I'm the key catalyst that started this thing, this business, that she secretly filed the LLC for.
Right.
I would say this: when you have meetings, put initials next to ideas, and then if it's done on a Google, I like to do my meetings on Google Docs so everyone can look at them and write them at the same time, you know, because we're usually on a Zoom meeting. But I would say then afterwards to email a hard copy of that, like do a screenshot of it and then do an email to the rest of the group, so that way you can keep track of these things along the way. It's sad. One of the things that really is heartbreaking is I've always been on hyper alert from white people or men, but it's sad when it's another woman of color and you don't see it coming. So just, you know.
It's another level of heartbreak, yeah.
It is. So keep track of your shit. Put it down in meetings, put down your initials next to some ideas that you have, and then send them out to each other. That way you have the receipts. Another thing I would say, too, is when you do go to court, get your evidence. There's a button called Annotate on a Mac. I don't know what it is on a PC, but on a Mac, there's a button called Annotate. And you can connect, you can point out the evidence, you can write little things next to it. When you go to court, write yourself a letter to the judge. Write yourself a letter to the judge explaining everything that happened. Be really detailed and really, really clear. Stick with the facts. Don't go into your emotions. And everything that you send to the judge, you're going to also have to send to whoever it is you're suing. So you're like, oh, wait, but then she's going to see my letter. Who cares? The judge isn't going to have time to hear all of your statements, but they will see it. They will read it. So you put all of that information, you write it all out, and you send it to the judge. Another thing, too, is if you have to go back to court later, resubmit your evidence, resend evidence to the person you're suing, because they need to get the evidence every time you go back, because evidence does get lost. And that's what happened to this person that I sued. She later tried to lie and cover some shit up, and the judge caught her on that. She tried to say she didn't have an evidence that I had given her. And then the judge asked her something, and she opened up her notebook with all her responses to evidence, and she said, my notes on item K, and the judge was like, I thought you said you didn't get it. And then she goes, I didn't, Your Honor, it was from a long time ago. And the judge was like, okay, whatever. And so don't lie in court. If you're wrong, if you're in the wrong, just fucking deal with that shit.
Right.
And know that you're in the wrong. You should try to avoid court if you're in the wrong. I gave her several options before going to court to get out. I gave her ways that we could part ways, but she was greedy. She didn't want to just pay what she sold for me. She also wanted to take the other things that I brought her on. She's my creations, my ideas, that I was giving credit to every fucking person out there. I mean, I want to say my ideas, my creations, but like the things I ignited, and then I built a team around. So I don't want to take away from the other people that are the actual creators, but she was not one of them. And I gave her things over and over, and she tried to take it all rather than us both parting ways equally.
Got it.
Just parting ways cleanly. I knew I couldn't stay attached to her on certain projects because you can't move forward in the industry with a project that has two people that are not talking to each other attached to it. Nobody's going to get involved in that project. So I wanted us to cleanly part ways and move apart. But she wanted what she stole, and she wanted the other things as well. That was a problem. She should have just walked away with what she could, and me walk away with what I would have. And
Exactly.
we wouldn't have gone to court at all. So she could not look at herself and recognize that her actions were wrong. Both judges, both women of color, told her her actions were wrong. The second judge said she was shady. Literally said the word shady to her.
Shame?
She said shady. She said
Shady.
Shady.
Wow. I've never heard a judge even be allowed to use that kind of language.
The judge was hesitant about the wording, and she was like, she had no other word for it. She's like, it's like she was trying to think of the right word, and she's like, shady, you know? It's like, and so she should have reflected on that. She should have said, okay, let's part ways. I think the reason why she secretly filed for the LLC was because she thought, I'm going to go into negotiations and I'm going to have it all. Rather than saying, you know what, let's just walk away with what we can and move on quietly, peacefully. And this business, this is the entertainment business. It's a long industry. You don't start burning bridges before you even got started. You don't know who people are connected to. You don't know when you're going to see them again. You can just, like, peacefully and amiably, as best as you can, with your head held high, both of you, walk away from each other. Don't be dumb. Anyway, my point is this. So she lied in court. She said she didn't have certain evidence, but then she had it in her notebook, okay? So she had the reflection, her response to that evidence in her notebook, hasn't she? So when you go to court, take all your evidence with you again. So submit your evidence, send your evidence to the person, take your evidence to court, because courts do lose evidence, you know? And so and that's not the court's responsibility. That was her responsibility. The judge said to her, you know, why didn't you know? She said, I didn't know I had to do it. And she was like, well, Ms. Almaraz knew. So anyway, do you see what I'm saying?
I do. So keep your receipts.
Make sure you have the evidence.
The truth will always come out. It's just evidence that, like, victory is yours. Even if you may not have, like, the most resources, which unfortunately is, like, part of being a creator a lot of the times.
Right.
Usually, at least when you're taking on people who you've worked with or you are on the same playing field, you know what I mean? They're not like a corporation. It is possible, more than possible.
That's right. She came in with a lot of receipts because she's from a business degree, right? And I'm from an artistic cinema degree. So I'm horrible, and I have ADHD. So she knew I was bad at keeping track of receipts. But I'm not dumb enough to know that what I do, writing ideas, editing ideas, directing ideas, producing ideas, that also has an economic value.
It does. And that's, like you said, the thousands that were supposed to be paid, you were able to then have the court rule that economic value is owed to you.
Yes, she currently does owe me thousands of dollars.
Mija, and on that note, I know we got cut out there for a second. I wanted to ask you about people who were in your circle, support that you got, and how that kind of kept you going.
The team members that this person also stole from, were a big part of my support system, as well as friends that, are your ride and dies. And I think one of the key things, if you're ever having to, you or your listeners ever have to set out on a situation like this, it's good to start off as the team and write down why you're doing. That way, because there were times when I really wanted to just stop because it was a lot of pain to keep reliving. And, what we went back to is, why are we doing this? And the reason we were doing it was because we had to hold her accountable for actions that she should not continue taking against other artists. And, imagine if it was a younger artist without 20 years experience,
right,
have a big support system and a big grounding, who just moved to LA a year ago. This might have destroyed them, and made them lose faith in
right,
art as their way of communicating their story. So I think that my support system, they always said, why are we doing this? And it was like, we have to stop her at this point so she doesn't keep doing this to others.
That's really important, I think, when you're pursuing such an arduous task such as a lawsuit. Is important to think of like things outside of yourself, like the greater cause. I think you're speaking to the why, and sometimes the why is bigger than us. So I appreciate you putting yourself in my shoes, for example, because I am a young 20-something, just moved here, and that would absolutely shatter my creative spirit. Yeah, I think that's something that needs to be avoided for just the sake of a healthy media landscape.
Right, and as a community, we want your voice and my voice, your voice at your age and my voice at my age, and even this other person's voice at her age. We want all those stories to have a valid weight, but we would like to think that a predator, if the predator came after me, she'll go after you.
Yeah.
So now she knows, people know, and they have their eye on that.
Right, you have to keep predators at bay and hopefully scared, if not of us, at least the consequences of their actions. Fuck around and find out, bitch.
Exactly.
You are, I think, a great person to just have as the first hotline call. Your voice is just soothing. You are definitely a badass chingona and represent everything that the ethos of my brand is about. I know that you are taking the steps to pour energy into yourself, and I can't wait to see what those films and projects look like.
Oh, that's awesome. Whenever you go through a dark time, the healing journey, it's a reward beyond, measure.
Oh, period. I don't know what to say.
I love you, okay?
I love you too. Call me next time you have Chisme.
One last thing to you.
Yes.
As a young person embarking on the journey in film, is really trust your intuition about someone, use your discernment, but don't burn bridges along the way.
Yeah, don't be an asshole. Don't burn your bridges before you even start.
Right.
Let me know next time you have some chisme. Hopefully not too soon though, alright?
No, next time it better be good chisme.
Yeah, exactly.
Using my discernment, girl, I'm using it.
Okay, bye. Love you again. Bye.
Okay.
Oh shit, I just hung up on her. Anyway, so I really appreciate that. She's so kind to have come on and shown us some love. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Keep that bell on. Until next time.